Let's talk a little bit about some of our listeners might be wanting to help their kids, or we might have some first home buyers listening. So there's two bits of support that the New South Wales government does, and there's various schemes across the country. So people should obviously lean in on their own state or territory. But first home buyer support, you offer assistance around the transfer duty and a homeowner's grant. So let's talk about the duty first. You've got a couple of thresholds where there's a full exemption and a concessional exemption. Can you talk to us about that for the first home buyers?
Yeah, 100%. So at the moment, with the first home buyers assistance scheme, is the one that you're talking about. There's it's essentially it's an exemption from having to pay the transfer duty on the purchase of your first home. There are some eligibility criteria that apply to make sure that you are actually a first home buyer for the most part. But yeah, essentially up to $800,000, you can get a full exemption from transfer duty on the purchase of your first home. From $800,000,
both new and existing.
That's
both
new and
properties.
existing properties. Yep.
Yep.
Now, from $800,000 up to $1 million, that's where instead of getting a full exemption, you'll get a concession instead. So you get you'll still pay some transfer duty, but not the full rate. And people often ask me, they're like, so how much is the discount? And it's kind of hard to explain because it's a sliding scale. So
yeah,
I'll put it like this. The closer you are to 800,000, the
better.
The better. And the closer you are to $1 million. So if you're buying something for $999,000, don't expect to see too much of a discount on your transfer duty at that point.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And then that's also for land value, Vish?
Vacant land.
Vacant land, sorry?
Yeah, so vacant land is $350,000. So different.
Good memory.
Different threshold that applies there, and the sliding scale thing works there as well, up to 450. So full exemption to 350,000, and partial discounted rate from 350 to 450.
And in the interest of time here, Vish, I'll go through your eligibility criteria because you've given it to us in advance, but it's the purchase must be for a new or existing home or vacant land. The transfer must be for the whole property. You must be an individual over 18. You or a spouse or partner must have never owned or co-owned a residential property in Australia. We'll come back to you, but we're assuming even if it's a previous investment property, you and your spouse or partner may have never previously received an exemption or concession under the scheme. At least one of the first home buyers must be an Australian citizen or a permanent resident, and you must meet the 12-month residence requirement. Can you lean in on two parts of that? One is if they had even just a percentage of an investment property in advance, and two, the 12-month residence requirement. What's the trigger? Is that moving in within 12 months of the settlement date or the contract of sale?
Cool. So let's start with the first question. So essentially with that, yes, if you have owned a property before, regardless of whether it's an investment or otherwise in Australia, you do not qualify, all right? And that requirement extends to your spouse, all right? So that essentially, if your spouse has ever owned property in Australia before, residential property, you're not going to qualify. There is something interesting there which I think people get confused about sometimes, because there is. So if you're buying 50%, let's say you're buying a property and mum and dad helping you out, for argument's sake, because you sort of mentioned that before. So if mum and dad are helping you out, so long as you're purchasing at least 50%, you'll get the exemption or the concession on your portion. However, the non-eligible party will have to pay transfer duty on their portion, right?
Yeah.
Right up until 95%. All right. So beyond, say, if you're buying 95% and you've got an equity partner coming on for 5% or less, we just treat that as fully exempt, right? However, if that equity partner is your spouse, as opposed to a parent or a friend or something like that, then see you later.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good little.
Good little bit of knowledge.
Yeah, 100%.